Well, of course, some important things happened in our last election, and to me, nothing more important than, in fact, the election of our own United States Senator, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. He's on the line. Senator, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, let's start off with the fact you're coming to town, a town hall meeting on Friday.
Yep.
That's this Friday at 2 p.m. It's called a town hall meeting. What's going to happen there?
Well, we're trying to reach out to people in the state and make sure that we're up to date. I mean, it's great to be in Washington and work from here, but the reality of it is the people we work for are not here. They're back home, and so it's important we communicate with them. So this is really our first effort. Soon we'll have an office open in the region as well. In fact, we're shopping for that right now, and so in essence, we've got to be able to talk to people and have them tell us firsthand what's on their minds and what's going on, and from it, you become a better spokesperson and a better representative of their views up here in the state.
All right, again, that's a town hall meeting happening Friday at 2 p.m. at the Naples Area Board of Realtors. That's at 1455 Pine Ridge Road in Naples, and again, I'm sure, as you heard, Senator Marco Rubio would love to have you come out. So, again, 2 o'clock town hall meeting at the Naples Area Board of Realtors. I'd like to start off with the overturn of ObamaCare by a federal judge in Pensacola. What are your thoughts and reactions?
I think it's the appropriate thing. I mean, if you look at the ruling, it's one of the arguments that was made against the bill. There are so many things wrong with the bill, with Obamacare, and one of them, of course, unfortunately, is its unconstitutional standing. I think that's what that court ruling was about. But it's not the only reason why this thing should be repealed. I mean, there are multiple reasons why it should be repealed. I think we start first and foremost with the fact that it has injected a tremendous amount of worry and uncertainty among job creators, and the result is that people aren't growing their businesses, the jobs aren't being created. People aren't starting new businesses or expanding existing ones because they're afraid of what it's going to mean. And so we obviously look at all of that and come to the conclusion that this law has to be repealed.
Now,
and that's what we're working on up here.
I know, and of course it's going through the court system right now. May end up probably will for sure end up in the Supreme Court. But the other avenue, of course, is the repeal of Obamacare. Mm-hmm. How's that going in the Senate? Maybe you could give us a first-hand view.
Sure. First of all, it's passed in the House, so it's now here in the Senate. This week, our Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has announced we have filed the amendment. We have filed the repeal amendment to a bill that is up this week in the Senate. We anticipate getting a vote on it here in the next few days. And so now is the perfect time to engage by calling your senator. There you have 2 senators in Florida. I know where I stand. I'm going to vote on this bill. I'm going to vote to repeal it. I'm going to vote to repeal Obamacare. And there are 100 different reasons why it's a good idea to repeal it. I mean, it raids Medicare. It really does. It hurts Medicare. It hurts the states. But the one I keep going back to is that jobs in Florida, jobs in America are created, private sector jobs, when people start businesses or grow their existing business by hiring more people. And they're not doing that because they are afraid of what this bill is going to mean to their bottom line. And that's why this bill cannot be repaired. It has to be repealed.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, of course, you were actually, I'll just use the word rock star when it came to being kind of that outsider, that Tea Party candidate that ended up really being the David against Goliath and winning the election. And now you've made a choice to not join the caucus, the Tea Party caucus in the Senate. I have mixed feelings about that, but maybe you could just give us your reaction and thoughts.
Well, 2 things. Number one is we have a conservative caucus here already. It's called the Steering Committee. In fact, I just got put on the executive committee of the Steering Committee. It's long existing. It's been around for a long time. It's headed up by Jim DeMint and a bunch of other real consistent conservatives, and I've joined that, and that's an organization that already promotes, conservative, center-right, limited government, constitutional government policies. So that's what I wanted to be a part of. Here's what I'm afraid about the Tea Party. I've always said it. What gives the Tea Party its power is that it is not a politician movement. It is not a group run by individuals or co-opted by political organizations. What gives the Tea Party legitimacy and power is that it comes from the grassroots, from everyday people, from all walks of life, from both political parties, and some from no political party who are tired of the direction of our country. And my biggest fear is I don't believe anyone in Washington really has the standing to say, we speak for the Tea Party. Now, we are constantly engaged with grassroots groups all around the state, including Tea Party groups. send us their input on what issues need to be, and I am grateful to the Tea Party movement for its support, but it's a movement, and I don't want it institutionalized, because it's going to lose much of its appeal and a lot of its credibility, and so that's just my personal perspective. I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily, but that's my personal perspective on it. I really believe the Tea Party movement functions best as a group from outside the political process that pressures both political parties and holds us accountable on our votes and where we stand on the issues.
Well, I think well said, and I certainly support your position on that. Now, you've been pushed into the limelight right now, and many would like to see you run for vice president. There already is some discussion around that, and you certainly have become an articulate member of the United States Senate, but it almost seems as though you're kind of shunning the spotlight.
Well, I'm focused on doing this job. I mean, this is a job, and I think one of the hardest things to adjust to is that being a U.S. Senator, unlike being in the state legislature, is not a part-time thing you do for 30 or 60, 90 days out of the year. It's something that is your job, near 9 to 5, and even more. So I'm trying to focus on that, and with that comes a lot of responsibilities to the state of Florida. And so every time I decide or choose, for example, at least in the short term, to do stuff at the national level, I can't focus on Florida. And I want to be able to get back to Florida as often as possible to meet with people. It's a big state with a lot of media markets and a lot of cities and territory to cover, and that's just taking a lot of our time and attention. The time will come when we'll get more engaged in the national debate, particularly on key issues that are facing our country that also impact Florida. But my first and overriding obligation is to be the best senator Florida has, and that's going to take a lot of work because I'm new here, and we've got to hit the ground running and get up to speed on that.
All right, again, we're speaking with our United States Senator Marco Rubio. He's going to be at a town hall meeting this Friday the 4th at 2 p.m. He'd like to meet you and talk with you. You can go to the Naples Area Board of Realtors building. That's 1455 Pine Ridge Road in Naples. This coming Friday at 2 p.m. I want to ask you about your committee appointments. You're going to be sitting on the Commerce as well as the Small Business, Foreign Relations, and Intelligence committees. Could you comment on that?
I'm very happy with the committee assignments we got. Clearly, Foreign Relations has always been an important committee, and it looks at the United States and its interests around the world. The Intelligence Committee is one that Florida's always had presence in. Porter Goss was there in the House and ultimately went to the agency. Senator Nelson has served on there for quite some time, and before that, Bob Graham did. So that's an important committee, and quite frankly, it gives a lot of I think it's a real good complement to the foreign relations stuff and basically everything else we deal with. Commerce is huge for Florida. I mean, it entails everything from our fishermen and the fisheries to tourism to NASA, which is a program that's critically important to our state. And then the fourth committee that I have, which I'm also very excited about, is small business, because small business is the backbone of our economy. It's people that are listening to the show right now that are on their way to open up their shop. They employ 2 to 3 people. Maybe they're all members of the same family. This is the backbone of our economy, and they're the ones that are getting crushed by this wave of regulations and taxes and ObamaCare. When I worry about our economy moving forward, those are the people I worry about first. The big companies, the powerful companies, the Fortune 500 companies, those guys, it's not that they like this stuff, but they've got the lawyers and the lobbyists and the accountants to figure their way through it. It's the small businesses that struggle to comply with all these new regulations and new requirements that ultimately get put out of business or at a minimum can't even grow.
Right. Well, you returned from Afghanistan recently. What did you learn?
I learned 3 things. Number one is that we are making real progress, that we have the right people there, and General Petraeus and his team, and that they have the right plan, and that plan's being implemented, and they're making progress. I also learned there's a long ways to go, and I think it's easier now to define what success means in Afghanistan. Success in Afghanistan is not your traditional military victory. Success in Afghanistan is providing enough security so that the people of Afghanistan can create a functional state for themselves. In essence, a place where courts function, the government functions, there are rules, and rules are followed. Basic things like traffic signals in schools, things perhaps we take for granted in the more developed world, but that they're able to do that for themselves. They can't do that as long as there are Taliban elements running loose, terrorizing people, and they can't do that if the United States keeps talking about leaving before that's set up, because then they're afraid to be involved, because they know that once the United States leaves, the Taliban will come back in and they'll punish anybody who cooperated. So that's why it's so important that we see this plan through. I think we're making real progress. The last thing I learned, but the most important perhaps, is how fortunate we are as a country to have the quality of young men and women who are serving us over there. Some are on their 4th or 5th tour, and you're talking about the highest quality people. And people always tell you how great our servicemen and women are, but there's nothing like seeing it firsthand, and it just blows you away.
Yeah, Marco Rubio, again, United States Senator here for the state of Florida. Again, I just want to remind your listeners, you're just tuning in, there's going to be a town hall meeting this coming Friday, the 4th, at 2 p.m., And Marco, you've expressed the fact that you'd like to get some feedback from people. You'd like to know where they stand on issues, so you'd like them to come.
Absolutely. I encourage them to come. It would be great if they could come to that.
All right. It's, again, Naples Area Board of Realtors, 1455 Pine Ridge Road in Naples. Senator, just inspiring to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.